So if I solve it, do I get a prize?
I do.
It's time.
This is Rachel Shatto with Out.com, and today I'm speaking with the cast and director of Hellraiser 2022.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm so excited to talk to you about Hellraiser, like my most anticipated movie of the year. So my first question is for you, Jamie. You are the first woman to you're making horror history. You're the first woman to ever play one of the like S-tier villains of the genre. And you got the blessing of Doug Bradley himself. So how did you make this character yours?
Lots of conversations with David, about what the priest's intentions were and why she was doing what she was doing and what she would be thinking or feeling at any certain moment. I mean, David was really generous with his time, of which he had none because he was working every single day. This movie happened, but he scheduled, many Zooms with me so that we could talk about the scenes as we were shooting them and breaking them down like line by line and what the intentions were. And then the makeup, of course, helped, getting into the makeup and the costume and the whole thing. And then once I would get onto set, I was really just living in the priest's, well of emotion and sensuality and sorrow and all of those things. And then we had moments where we could play on set, with different takes, doing take to take, doing completely different things to try to figure out what was reading on screen and what worked and what they thought looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Because there isn't a lot of movement that's achievable, once the prosthetic is completely glued on and with the contacts completely covering my eyes. So, luckily I had an incredible director, holding my hand and guiding me the whole way. And we got there together.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, the whole like pleasure and playing thing is like kind of the thing, right? So David, for you, you've made some incredible horror films. What was it about Hellraiser that made you want to go this direction? Did you have ideas for how you wanted to deepen the mythology? Was it just a favorite of yours?
Well, I mean, Hellraiser is, there's nothing like Hellraiser, first of all. True. Everything that I love about horror, they do in Hellraiser, and they do it better and in more fascinating ways than almost any other iconic franchise. And so it's surreal. It explores the interior and the exterior. It's visceral. It's not afraid to challenge the audience. It can be elliptical and obtuse, and sometimes it can be very frank with you. Like I love those movies, and they're movies that grew on me over the years. Like I didn't understand them when I was really young and I first saw them. I was too afraid of them. And so yeah, for me and the interests I've had in the horror genre, like this is never something that I imagined I'd have the opportunity to work on. And so it was an honor to jump in and pay homage to what came before us, but also allow ourselves. And Jamie was a huge part of this, is just to run amok with it and let our inspirations, take us somewhere. And, be true to those voices as well. And so it's an immense, amazing playground.
I mean, yeah, I definitely see the source material like coming from Hellraiser. The first two Hellraisers and specifically are really present in this, but it is definitely its own thing, which is very, very exciting. One of the ways that I think it pays homage is like the legacy of Hellraiser is so queer. It came out of queer culture and queer anxiety and things like that. How was it for both of you to create a new generation of this story in a more queer, more inclusive, more diverse kind of generation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was something that we recognized about the original, and you look back at that time period, and maybe there were constraints there in terms of representation, who could play what. Some of that was very much coded in the narrative in different ways, and I think it just seemed really obvious to us going into this that it would, we would be really, really open in terms of casting, not just our cast, also our crew, and that we'd be really missing out if we didn't include everybody in a Hellraiser movie, And so we did our best with that. And And I hope some of that, resonates with the viewers in some ways, and that they're seeing that presence in the film.
Awesome. All right. My last question. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Do you, both of you, see this as the beginning of a new franchise, and would you want to come back?
I would. I don't know. People haven't even seen it yet. So it's like, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I mean, I don't know, David, what do you think?
I look, for me, I've been living in this for 2 years. I would say for me, there is absolutely a path forward. I think, I don't treat it as strict canon or a strict reboot. Like, there are elements from the original films that are present. I like to think that that can be a blurry line between what you've seen and where we're going. But I certainly hope, if not along these lines, or if somebody else has the opportunity and wants to take it in a different direction, I would be a fan of any Hellraiser movie that's coming out. I think I certainly would love to play with this again if given the opportunity.
Feed it their blood, their pain.
Wow, look at that background.
Yeah,
Bam. And that hair.
You guys, stop it. So first of all, I've seen the movie. I loved the movie. But for our readers, what can you tease about each of your characters for them?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I play Colin. I'm a little bit of a logical thinker in all of it, and I sort of get pulled into this tornado of this box that has been opened by Odessa's character, Riley. And kind of throughout, I'm a little bit of the sort of like skeptic. And so I normally find that that's kind of me in real life too. So it's nice to kind of feel like I connect. I'm like, but like, what's the real like meaning behind this? I'm always kind of like searching for like reason. And so, yeah, it was really cool. And also to feel like he was a queer character that had agency, like over sort of like, what was happening to him and to others. Because I feel like a lot of times in movies, we don't really get that representation or get that chance to do that. So it's a credit to the writers and, to Clive Barker, also queer himself, making this whole world. So, yeah.
I played Trevor, kind of romantically involved with Odessa's character, Riley, and somewhat of the catalyst for all this hell breaking loose in the story. I kind of lead our main character to the puzzle box. And so there's a bit of guilt, I think, with Trevor throughout the entire, story of, oh my God, is this my fault? What have I done?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back a little bit to what you brought up about like the legacy of Hellraiser and queerness in it. It is so queer. It's embraced by the queer community. It came out of queer community, like the kink community. How is it for you guys getting to create a new, very queer story for a new, even more queer generation?
It was so exciting. I was just reading the script when I got it, and I was literally crying because I was so overcome with just like emotion that this was like, I got to be a part of this, like I think it's really special, especially like if you're a kid that grows up, especially a queer kid, with like as a horror fan. And like I feel like we see ourselves a lot through the final girl, at least I did. And so it was cool to be like along with her in that journey, and just feel like I was like a part of this world. And then also just like, I guess hearing that Clive also, like I read that like he saw these as like demons that he thought would come to like take him if he were to come out, which I thought was like, that kind of hit me too. I think like really kind of beautiful how he coded it in this way and like in sort of this huge metaphor. And I feel like Bruckner really wanted to honor a lot of that. And it's exciting now we get to be ourselves in this world. We don't have to be hidden through, different metaphors and stuff. We're just sort of here. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of my favorite things about this movie, of which there are many. So obviously this Hellraiser has a ton of cachet. The name, it, you are a fan. What do you hope that people going in to see this new chapter, what is one thing you want them to have in mind when they sit down to watch this?
I think that, it's kind of uniquely its own thing. It obviously pays homage to the originals, but it's a new story. And I think with, it has its own kind of unique stamp on it. So I think, David Bruckner, the director, did a really good job of crafting this world, and there's a lot of care into it. I think he really wanted to make something that that hopefully satisfies the original fans and that huge amazing fan base, but also kind of introduces this world to a lot of new audiences as well.
What's your deal?
It has 6 sides, 6 configurations. It opens up and it cuts you. And then they come to collect.
Congratulations on Hellraiser. How are you guys feeling now that it's about, very soon it will be out for people to see it?
Anxious.
That's totally fair.
Oh my God.
I'm really excited.
Good. That's good. That's also.
I'm scared.
All right. So my first question is for you, Odessa. Obviously, Kirsty Cotton is an icon, a horror icon, beloved. Did you take any inspiration from her as a character when you were becoming Riley?
I don't know, because they're different people, they're not. Yeah. They're not. They went through this. I mean, not the same exact thing, but very, very similar. They're just both going through this crazy random world that they didn't even know that it existed. But I didn't want to make it. I wanted this one to be its own, because it's not a reboot. It's a reimagining. So I didn't want it to be. She was her own. I could never recreate that, she's a legend. So
fair. Okay. So I recently went to a horror museum, and I was shocked by how imposing the villains were, even though they were behind glass. I want to know from each of you what it was like the first time you were confronted with Pinhead and the Cenobites.
I mean, when I saw Jamie for the first time in the full priestess getup, it was. I'm both going into it like an actor who has to be worried about the world that's suddenly being imposed, but I was also a horror fan and was just completely enamored by the specificity and I think the intention of making something scary and beautiful at the same time was so smart between the Russells, the FX team, and David Bruckner, that it just, I could feel all of that at once.
Yeah, It's pretty spectacular, seeing that in front of you. It's
it has to make your job pretty easy, right?
Yeah. Is Hellraiser a real thing? Because these look you're what?
So the franchise is one that's pretty meaningful to fans. Does that feel like pressure for you to be doing a new chapter in that story, or is it more just excited for people to see the new film?
I would say both to that, because it's if you have something that people have such a personal nostalgia linked to, that you want to get it right for them, but at the same time, as much as you're making it for them and to satisfy them, this is also a new movie, so it's different. Did that answer that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Now I'm
Brandon, Brandon, you said you're a horror fan. So for you, what do you hope people keep in mind when they go in to sit down and watch this for the first time? What's the one thing you'd like them to be thinking?
I hope they keep in mind that in all the Hellraisers, there is an underlying message that really possesses like a very humane understanding of this conversation between pleasure and pain, between like how much we choose to suffer and how much suffering just exists in the world around us. And that to me is like the most exciting about the old fans coming to this, that in a movie that reflects the modern times, and the new fans to be able to go back and see that in Hellraiser 1, that they were doing something so similar in terms of reflecting what was happening at the time, and Clive Barker's message being such a clear and magnificent one.
That's something that I think that old fans will really love is if they hate everything else, I know they're gonna love the Cenobites.
I don't think they're gonna hate everything else. I thought it was great.
But just, there's always that possibility. So at least they got their Cenobites. They don't like anything else.
It's really nice. You can hold it. What is it?
It's a puzzle. And it's almost finished. Keep going.
So, your character Voight, let's say he's up to no good. He's very mysterious. What can you tell us about him?
Well, up to no good is kind of understatement, but he's this guy who is a billionaire, and he's bored with his life. He tried everything in a way. So he's, instead of being grateful for what he has and try to look more inwardly to his, life and to use his riches to help other people and stuff. No, he's searching for something untangible. He's searching for more sensation, more experiences and stuff like that. And then he gets his hand on this box, which is obviously black magic or something that humans shouldn't be getting their hands on. And he opens it and all hell breaks loose. And
literally
so he is, in the second part of the movie, you realize that he's actually the puppeteer who kind of like gets people in and try to open the box for him, not knowing that they're actually doing it for him. So he's definitely up to no good.
Yes, you could say that for sure. I mean, what I love is you get to do a little bit of like mustache twirling villain in this role. Is that something that you enjoy, getting to play, someone who's like not even morally ambiguous?
Yeah, well, in this case, why I loved to play this character, because he starts, in that first scene, he's this kind of charming, powerful guy who has everything, and he looks everybody from above, and he plays with people. He's toying with this poor guy who comes in to open the box for him. And next time you see him, you see this crashed person, this guy who is in pain 24/7 because of this machine that Cenobites gave him as a gift. And this was gift you don't want to be bestowed to anybody. And, it's horrible. So you see him basically ruined completely. And to jump from that to this, it was an interesting process for me as an actor to play him like that. And then again, being this powerful individual who's trying to manipulate other people to open a box again for him so he can try to fix the previous mistake that he did with Cenobites. So yeah, it's pretty, and then, I don't know, have you seen the movie? We're not allowed to discuss the ending, but in the end, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like, you know what? I want to do this just for that final scene, just to see myself, do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the franchise. I think this is such an exciting new chapter in it. It's one that has had some ups and downs, and it's so good to see it kind of return to form. Were you a fan previous to to joining the cast, or was this sort of your introduction to the sights that it would show you?
No, I've seen the funny thing. I'm a huge science fiction fan. So when I was a teenager, video store that was next to my house, you know, still VHS tapes and stuff. And I'm looking to see something I haven't seen, any, you know, sci-fi movie that I still haven't seen. And I see this Hellraiser 4. There's this space station and stuff. So this one is happening in space, actually. So I take it as a sci-fi movie, I take it home and I watch it, and I'm like, you know, this is a really good film. You know, I kind of like it. There was pieces of it happening in a history, 18th century space station, you know, very kind of operatic. This is the time of Empire Strikes Back being in the cinemas and stuff. So I go back and I take 1, 2, and 3, you know, and then I got introduced to the franchise in a proper way. So yeah, when this came across my desk, I was like, you know, my managers, do you know, you ever heard? I'm like, dude, I can write a doctorate on, you know. And then again, like I'm telling you, when I read that final scene, I was kind of like, okay, who's directing? David Bruckner. Nice, good.
Well, amazing. I'm so glad that you are a fan, that you got to do it, that you got to do that scene, which we will not reveal. I had a great time watching it, and I can't wait for everybody to see it. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with Out today.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you enjoyed our interviews today, be sure to subscribe to Out's YouTube channel and visit us at out.com.